Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for choosing Across the Fence. I'm Will Michael in for Fran Stoddard. Every year, the Vermont Department of Fish and Wildlife receives hundreds of reports involving bats. The inquiries may be about a sick or injured bat, or about a single bat or a colony of bats who've taken up residence in a home or another building. In a recent program, we learned there are 9 different bat species in Vermont. 3 of the 9 species migrate south to warmer climates for the winter. And that leaves 6 species of bats that reside in Vermont year-round. These species are known as cave bats. They hibernate in caves and mines in the winter. And as you can see on the screen, most of these bats are protected, which means they're on the list of federally or state threatened or endangered species. We're going to learn more about these bats and what you should do if you have a bat or bats in your living spaces. I'm joined by 2 guests from the Fish and Wildlife Department. Alyssa Bennett is a small mammals biologist, and alongside Alyssa is Carrie Monahan. Carrie is a wildlife specialist, also with the department. Good afternoon to each of you, and thank you for being with us.
Glad to be here.
For having us.
So from what you've told me and some of the pictures that we're going to see that you've shared for us, it's not uncommon for someone to find a bat or bats in their living spaces. Carrie, what are some of the common species that we might find in Vermont buildings or homes?
Yes, here in Vermont, we have 2 species of bats. We have the big brown bat and the little brown bat. Both of these bats could be found in building structures, including your house.
So again, you shared with us some pictures of some examples of things that you've come across over the years, and our director, Adam Wright, is showing those on the screen. Share some of the anecdotes. What do you see when you go out in the field?
Sure. So it depends what time of year it is. Depending on what time of year it is, there's different bat behavior that is associated with that. So in the wintertime, we have big brown bats that often hibernate in people's homes. When there's a change in temperature, these bats will often go to a different part of the attic to find a suitable area. Sometimes they'll make it into your living space, maybe your laundry room or your mudroom. And then in the springtime, we get bats that are just emerging from the hibernacula, and they are very lethargic and look emaciated and dehydrated. And we get calls from the public about bats that they're concerned about that they see on the ground or on their porch. One time we had a call that this family called us and their children found a bat on the ground. Unfortunately, it was dead, but it had a band on it. And we were able to look up that band and find out that that bat was banded about 14 years ago in Massachusetts. So that bat comes from Massachusetts to Vermont every year to hibernate.
That's a great story, and it begs a question of how long do bats live? 14 years, that I was surprised. That seems old to me, but maybe that's not an old bat, is it?
Yeah, no, a lot of people get surprised, but some bats could live, 30, 35 years, maybe.
Well, it's very interesting, and I'm going to come back to both of you to talk about techniques, ideas, things that you can help us with if there is a bat in our dwelling. But let me bring Alyssa in. The little brown bat, that's state endangered, and I wondered if you could talk a little bit with us about what that means.
That's correct. So the little brown bat, actually, their population in Vermont declined by over 90% when the disease white nose syndrome hit in 2008, 2009. So we put that animal on the state endangered species list, along with a couple other species who were hard hit by the disease. And what that means is we want to take extra precautions if you do find bats in your home so that they can be gotten out safely, which is also the most effective way to get and keep bats out of your space, but without harming them.
And Alyssa, you mentioned the little brown bat, but it's not the only bat species that's in trouble. If I understand correctly, of the 6 bats that hibernate sort of year-round in Vermont, 5 of the 6 are threatened or endangered.
That's correct. And those are all bats that hibernate in the winter, and they're all impacted by this fungal disease to different degrees.
So I don't know if this is true. Speaking for myself, the near universal reaction to finding a bat in your house, Might be some kind of combination of panic, fear, concern. What do you want people to do if they have a bat or a colony of bats to report? Carrie, what should we do?
Well, that's a great question. We ask the public to give us a call or go to our website. On our website, we have a form that you could fill out about bats that you find in your house or any kind of maternity colonies. And if you see a sick or injured bat, you could call the rabies hotline, or you could call our bat rehabber, Barry, at the Vermont Bat Center up in Milton.
Again, all great examples, and we want to highlight the website because I know in preparing for the program, there's all kinds of wonderful information you have, including that idea that it is wildlife. You always want to wear gloves, and if you need help, go ahead and ask for it. So, Carrie, at what point should I, as a homeowner, call for professional help?
If you see a healthy bat just roosting in your living space, that should be fine. But if you see a bat that looks injured, or if you wake up to a bat in your bedroom, or a bat was sleeping or in a bedroom with a sleeping child, or somebody that was intoxicated, that is a cause for concern, and we ask that you call the rabies hotline immediately.
So there's different scenarios, right? We can come across a single live bat. We can come across a colony. You've touched on maybe a sick or injured bat. What about disposing or touching a dead bat?
Yeah, so that's definitely something we still want to be careful of. Again, rabies is something that, although it's not prevalent in a bat population, it is a deadly disease. So we take it into consideration and are very careful about it. If you do have a dead bat and it has been in your home, we still want to make sure that there's no need for it to be tested for rabies, especially if you've had direct contact. So we still suggest contacting the rabies hotline at 1-800, the number 4 and the word rabies on your keypad. And then if there are no concerns, you actually can put that bat into a couple layers of bags and then put it out in the trash, or you can bury it in the backyard.
You want to hear about healthy bats as well, correct?
That's correct. We really we like receiving those reports because that's really how we know that the population, it turns out, is doing okay in Vermont at this point. Little brown bats, although they're endangered, they do still roost in attics and barns and bat houses throughout the state. And because people have reported those colonies of healthy bats to us, we've been able to locate a couple dozen that are surviving in the state, which is amazing. And we have volunteers who actually help us count those bats in the summer, which gives us a population trend over time. And that's showing us that this population is stable at really low numbers.
And what are the best practices for keeping bats out of the house to begin with?
You want to look for holes. So it's really important to think about not only natural holes, maybe architecturally, but also areas of disrepair. So bats can get into very small spaces. Most of these bats are about the size of a man's thumb. And that means that they can squeeze into spaces if you have, for example, soffits or fascia board that's pulling away from the house, areas where flashing is pulling up around the chimney, or maybe an attic vent that used to have screening that was damaged. Bats don't chew or dig or nest, but they're great at taking advantage of opportunities where there are holes that may have been caused even by other animals.
So there are times that we're trying to keep them out, but as individuals, what can we do to help bats in Vermont?
So
Yeah, go ahead, Carrie.
Thanks, Alyssa. We encourage people to leave dead standing trees in their yards. If they can, they could put up a bat house. We have the resources for that if you're interested.
Carrie, are there tricks to getting a bat to live in a bat house, or do we just put them up?
Yeah, so there's no magic tricks to have bats to move into bat houses. Sadly, it's just the luck of the draw. If you have a great space for it, if you have it south facing, at least 10 feet up on a building structure or on a pole, you'll have better success than putting it in the shade in a tree or something. We discourage people putting bat houses in trees because they're vulnerable to predators that way.
What can you tell us about, either one of you, about the reproductive cycles? My understanding is that they produce one bat as offspring. Is that play a role in the populations? And what time of year are the young bats being born?
That's correct. Most of our species, especially the ones that are listed as threatened or endangered, have only one young per year. And that does mean that we're not going to see them bounce back or recover to the population that we used to see with lots of bats flying around our yards. So we're very excited when we see a population stabilize, even at a low level, because it's difficult when they have one young per year to bounce back from such an enormous population decline.
Alyssa, is there a time of year, like deer being born, late spring, early summer, or can bats be born any time of year?
Yes, they are born in the summer. So their reproductive cycle is really quite interesting. It's actually in the fall when bats go back to caves and mines and gather there that they're mating. But the females actually store the sperm over the winter, and the egg they don't ovulate till the spring, and then the egg is fertilized from that stored sperm, and they initiate pregnancy in the spring. Some of our species, it's about 60-day gestation period or pregnancy, and then they'll have their pups typically anywhere from mid-May to late June.
Well, I don't know where the time has gone, but before we go, I want to highlight the department website. I want to be sure that you go to vtfishandwildlife.com, click on the link to learn more. You'll find detailed information about what to do if you find a bat in your living space. You'll find the various reporting forms, as well as bat identification tips and more. Please remember that Vermont bats are in trouble, and by learning to live with them, we can all help their long-term conservation. Carrie and Alyssa, I want to thank you for being with us. I know I'm not the only one who learned something by having you both with us this afternoon. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for this opportunity.
Thank you.
And that is our program for today. We know you have choices, so thanks for choosing us. I'm Will Michael, inviting you to join us back here each weekday afternoon for another visit Across the Fence.